There is a photograph of my mother. She is standing by a river, her auburn hair pulled back, and she wears a black A-line skirt past her knees and a white blouse buttoned to the top. In her arms she holds a large leather-bound King James close to her breast, as if she's holding on to it for strength, for life. She looks like a missionary about to board a riverboat that will take her somewhere far away to save a life or feed someone hungry. This was the life she had always wanted, to be a missionary. She grew up in the backwoods of Kentucky, the oldest of 10 or 11 children. The exact number seemed to change. It was complicated. The genesis of this photograph takes me back to a story of my mother as a girl dying on the wood floor of the old shack they lived in. The story went that my Aunt Fanny carried my mother to a willow tree behind their house, and there she prayed a loud and desperate prayer. And in Fanny's arms, my mother's life returned. But any beauty of my mother's life after death experience hid beneath a branch of fear and wrath and unrequited desires, until the day somewhere in the midst of my girlhood she decided she would no longer be bound to a life of fear. Her fear was of the consequence of not using the life she had been given back. Her calling demanded of her a seemingly impossible scenario, but the fear of not using her second chance at life would not leave her alone. Which might explain why, with the path to becoming a missionary blocked by her own mother when she was a teenager, years later in the 1970s, she heard and answered the call to preach. She called it testifying, but preaching was what it was. Altars at small country churches from Tennessee to Virginia shook from the sound of my mother's calling, and a rattlesnake would have been more welcome in some pulpits in the mountains of Appalachia than a female preacher. And yet she was undeterred. My mother possessed, and still does, a remarkable singing voice and a striking beauty, which got her the invitation to sing. My mom would sing a little and preach a lot. And while those backwoods preachers steamed in the front row, my mother lived out her calling to spread the gospel. I found this inspiring in so many ways and terrifying in others. Our fears can cause us to shrivel or to thrive. And in my mother's case, she decided she would not take for granted the second chance at the life she'd been given, where underneath the branches of that old tree, her Aunt Fanny's prayers reached the ear of God. She would live out her calling, whatever the cost. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand. This is the life and the day that the Lord has made. Let us live fully in it.